The Galactic Dominion had seen humanity's fleet before. It had never been impressed. So when 300 human warships appeared at the edge of the Vera system, Admiral Kale Varen actually laughed. On his command bridge, thousands of alien officers watched the human fleet drift through space. 300 ships. No dreadnoughts. No planet killers. No advanced carrier formations. Just old, battered vessels moving in a loose formation. Their hulls were scarred. Their engines were weak. Their weapons barely registered on Dominion scanners. Kale leaned forward in his command chair. That's it? Nobody answered. He smiled. Earth was given one chance to surrender. Instead, they sent us their garbage. Across the battlefield, Admiral Elias Mercer watched the Dominion fleet approach. His bridge was almost completely silent. The human ships were old by design. Their weapons had been deliberately powered down. Their shields were running at minimal output. Even their communications were using outdated military protocols. Everything about them screamed weakness. Exactly as planned. Mercer looked at the tactical display. The Dominion had brought 12,000 warships. Humanity had brought 300. The numbers were ridiculous. The odds were impossible. And Mercer seemed completely comfortable with that. Begin withdrawal, he ordered. A young officer turned toward him. Sir, withdrawal. Slowly. The human fleet began retreating. The Dominion immediately advanced. Laughter spread across Kale's bridge. They're running. Kale activated the fleet-wide channel. Human Admiral, this is your final warning. Surrender your vessels and your worlds will be spared. Mercer's voice came back calmly. No. Kale's expression hardened. You understand that you're surrounded? We know. You have nowhere to go. Mercer looked through the bridge window at the darkness ahead. Then he smiled. That's what we're counting on. The transmission ended. Kale stared at the screen. For the first time, something felt wrong. The human fleet wasn't fleeing toward Earth. It was heading toward the graveyard expanse. A region of space abandoned centuries ago. No stars. No colonies. No known resources. Nothing. Dominion intelligence had classified it as dead space. Kale ordered his entire fleet forward. The chase continued. 10 minutes. 20. Then an hour. The human ships entered the expanse. And one by one, their signals disappeared. Kale's officers froze. Where did they go? Tracking lost. Every ship. Yes, Admiral. Kale stood. Then the darkness ahead flickered. Once. Twice. Thousands of tiny lights appeared in the distance. His tactical officer stared at the screen. Admiral. Kale turned. What? The officer's voice trembled. We're detecting structures. How many? The officer swallowed. Too many to count. Then something enormous moved behind the darkness. Not a planet. Not an asteroid. A ship. A human ship so massive that the Dominion computers mistook it for a moon. And behind it, thousands of smaller lights began awakening. Kale finally understood. The fleet humanity had sent wasn't an army. It was a doorbell. And someone had just opened the door. For 3 full seconds, Admiral Kale Varen could not speak. The object floating inside the graveyard expanse was impossible. His tactical display identified it as a moon. His eyes told him it was a warship. A colossal human warship. Its hull stretched for kilometers, covered in armored layers and glowing weapon ports. Along its spine, hundreds of lights awakened one after another, illuminating the darkness like a sleeping city coming alive. Then another ship emerged. Then 10. Then 100. Kale's bridge erupted into confusion. Those vessels aren't on any registry. They have no identification codes. Where did they come from? Kale clenched his claws around the command rail. Scan them. The tactical officer hesitated. We are. And? The officer looked terrified. They're not broadcasting power signatures. Kale frowned. That is impossible. No, Admiral. The officer pointed toward the display. What's impossible is how they're hiding them. The human fleet had not disappeared. It had entered a massive artificial structure buried inside the expanse. A structure so enormous that its outer shell had been mistaken for a natural asteroid field for centuries. The 300 ships Kale had chased were entering it one after another. And every time one disappeared, another unknown vessel emerged. Humanity had built an entire hidden military base in dead space. Kale immediately ordered his fleet to stop. Reverse course. The Dominion fleet began turning. Then every human vessel in the expanse activated its engines. Not to attack. To surround them. Human ships appeared above. Below. Behind. Between the Dominion formations. The darkness itself seemed to move. Kale stared at the tactical display as red warning symbols multiplied across his screen. His 12,000 ships were suddenly trapped inside a three-dimensional cage. Fire. Thousands of Dominion weapons charged. But the humans didn't respond. Instead, every hidden ship turned its bow toward the same target. The Dominion flagship. Kale's confidence finally cracked. Why aren't they firing? A Dominion officer whispered, perhaps they're waiting. For what? The answer came from the communication system. Mercer's voice. Calm. Almost casual. Your fleet has entered the perimeter. Kale's eyes narrowed. What perimeter? A pause. Then Mercer said. The one you weren't supposed to survive. The stars around them suddenly vanished. A massive energy field activated across the entire expanse, cutting the Dominion fleet off from hyperspace. Every escape route disappeared. Every jump engine failed. The Dominion ships were trapped. Kale stared at the impossible barrier. This wasn't a fleet. Mercer's voice returned. No. The enormous human warship behind him began opening hundreds of weapon bays. It was a lure. Then something even larger moved behind the hidden fortress. The Dominion sensors screamed. A second human vessel emerged from the darkness. Then a third. Then dozens. Then thousands. Kale slowly stepped away from the command window. His voice became barely audible. How long have they been building this? Nobody answered. Because suddenly, a new message appeared on every Dominion screen. Humanity's Shadow Armada, deployment, 7%. Kale stared at the number. 7%. Only 7. And somewhere beyond the darkness, something massive was still waking up. The number remained on every Dominion screen. 7% deployed. No one on Admiral Kale Varen's bridge spoke. 7%. The Dominion had brought 12,000 warships to destroy 300 human vessels. Now those 300 ships had disappeared. In their place stood thousands of unknown warships. And humanity was telling them that this was only 7%. Kale finally found his voice. Jam their communications. The Dominion electronic warfare crews activated every suppression system they had. Nothing happened. Disable their sensors. Nothing. Target the command ship. Thousands of Dominion cannons turned toward the colossal human vessel. Before they could fire, every human ship moved simultaneously. Not randomly. Perfectly. The formation split into dozens of precise attack groups, sliding between Dominion ships like pieces on a chessboard. Kale's officers watched in disbelief. They're predicting our movements. No, Kale whispered. They already know them. A Dominion cruiser fired. A human escort ship rotated 90 degrees and absorbed the blast on its side armor. Then it disappeared behind another vessel. 3 human ships emerged behind the Dominion cruiser. Their weapons fired once. The cruiser vanished in a burst of white light. Kale's tactical officer stared at the screen. 1 cruiser destroyed. How much energy did the humans use? The officer checked. Less than 12% of their estimated weapons capacity. Kale's expression darkened. The human fleet wasn't simply powerful. It was efficient. Every shot mattered. Every movement had a purpose. And then the human flagship opened a communication channel. Mercer appeared on the screen. Behind him, the bridge was strangely calm. Kale demanded, "What are you?" Mercer looked at him for several seconds. Prepared. For what? Mercer's expression changed. Not anger. Not pride. Something closer to regret. For the day someone finally came looking. Kale frowned. Humanity has been hiding weapons for centuries. Yes. Why? Mercer glanced toward the stars. Because the Dominion wasn't the first empire to threaten Earth. Silence. Kale's eyes narrowed. What does that mean? Mercer didn't answer. Instead, he transmitted a file. The Dominion computer opened it automatically. Ancient records appeared. Destroyed civilizations. Dead worlds. Entire empires erased from history. And every record contained the same symbol. A black geometric mark. Kale's blood ran cold. His intelligence archives knew that symbol. It belonged to a civilization the Dominion believed was extinct. The architects. Then another message appeared. Threat status, active. Kale looked up. That's impossible. Mercer shook his head. No. The human admiral's voice became quieter. That's why we built the Armada. Suddenly, every human ship stopped firing. The entire battlefield went silent. Kale looked around. Why did they stop? The tactical officer pointed toward the edge of the system. Something was approaching. Not one ship. Not a fleet. Space itself was bending. Stars stretched into impossible shapes. Then a gigantic black structure emerged from a tear in reality. Kale stared at it. For the first time, he understood why humanity had prepared for war. Because the Dominion had never been the real enemy. It had only been the warning. Space tore open without making a sound. The Dominion fleet froze as a black structure emerged from the distortion. It was larger than any warship Kale had ever seen. Its surface wasn't metal. It looked like darkness had been given shape. No engines. No visible weapons. No windows. Just enormous geometric patterns glowing faintly across its hull. Kale's sensors began failing one after another. Admiral. His tactical officer stared at the screen. We're losing power. Across the battlefield, Dominion ships went dark. Human ships remained operational. Kale turned toward Mercer's image. You knew this would happen. Mercer didn't deny it. We suspected. You brought my fleet here as bait. We needed you here. Kale's expression twisted with anger. You used us. Mercer looked at him. Yes. Then the black vessel moved. It didn't accelerate. It simply appeared closer. Thousands of kilometers disappeared in an instant. The Dominion opened fire. 12,000 ships unleashed everything. The darkness absorbed it. No explosion. No damage. The weapons simply vanished. Then the black structure responded. A pulse spread through space. Hundreds of Dominion ships disappeared simultaneously. Not destroyed. Gone. Their energy signatures vanished. Their crews vanished. Even their wreckage was missing. Kale stepped backward. What are those things? Mercer answered quietly. The architects. Kale looked at the impossible vessel. The ancient civilization. Yes. You said they were extinct. They wanted everyone to believe that. A second dimensional rupture appeared. Then a third. Then dozens. Black ships began emerging from every direction. The Dominion fleet suddenly realized they were surrounded by something far more terrifying than humanity. Kale's officers panicked. Admiral, there are thousands. More arriving. Hyperspace is still blocked. Kale turned toward Mercer. What do you want? Mercer stared at him. Your fleet. My fleet. We need every ship you have. Kale almost laughed. You're asking the Dominion to fight beside humanity? Mercer nodded. Unless you'd rather die alone. For several seconds, Kale said nothing. Then the architect fleet moved. The battlefield exploded. Human ships rushed forward. Dominion battleships followed. For the first time in history, humans and their former enemies fought side by side. But the architects were prepared. Their ships moved through human formations without slowing. Human defenses collapsed. A massive architect vessel targeted the human flagship. Impact in 30 seconds. Mercer's officers shouted. The ship turned. It didn't retreat. Mercer ordered every nearby human vessel to protect the flagship. Hundreds of ships formed a wall. The architect weapon fired. The human formation disappeared. Mercer watched thousands of lives vanish in seconds. His jaw tightened. Then he looked at the tactical map. Something had changed. The architects weren't attacking randomly. They were moving toward one specific location. Earth. Mercer suddenly understood. They aren't here to destroy us. His officers looked at him. Then what are they doing? Mercer stared at the approaching fleet. They're going home. And for the first time, the hidden Armada faced a horrifying truth. Humanity hadn't prepared to defend Earth from the architects. It had prepared to make Earth the place where the architects finally died. They're going home. Mercer's words silenced the bridge. Every officer stared at the tactical display. The architect fleet wasn't chasing the human armada. It wasn't trying to destroy the Dominion. It was moving directly toward Earth. And that terrified Mercer more than any battle. "Open the old command channel," he ordered. An officer hesitated. "Sir, that channel hasn't been used in 80 years. Open it." A signal traveled across encrypted human networks. Then another. Then hundreds. Across distant star systems, forgotten human facilities began responding. One after another, dormant military installations awakened. The Dominion officers watched in disbelief. "What are those?" Cale stared at the tactical map. Red symbols appeared around Earth. Hundreds. Then thousands. Hidden shipyards. Orbital fortresses. Underground launch complexes. Deep space sensor arrays. Humanity had been hiding far more than a fleet. It had been hiding an entire war machine. Cale looked at Mercer. "You knew Earth was prepared." Mercer shook his head. "No." Cale frowned. "Then who built all of this?" Mercer looked toward the Earth symbol. "Our ancestors." The architect fleet entered the Sol system. The first wave immediately attacked Earth's outer defenses. The result was unexpected. The human defenses didn't fire. They simply disappeared. Cale's eyes widened. "Why aren't they fighting?" Mercer remained silent. The architect fleet advanced deeper into the system. Mars. Jupiter. Saturn. Every defense platform remained inactive. The architects seemed to believe they had already won. Then the final defense line appeared. Earth. The planet looked completely normal. Blue oceans. White clouds. No enormous weapons. No massive fleet. Nothing. The architect command vessel transmitted a message across every frequency. "Humanity has reached the end." Mercer listened. Then he smiled. "Not yet." He gave a single command. "Wake Earth." For 3 seconds, nothing happened. Then the planet changed. Deep beneath Earth's oceans, enormous structures began powering up. Across the moon, hidden hangars opened. Behind the planet, artificial rings unfolded from invisible cloaking fields. And beyond the solar system, thousands of human warships emerged from hyperspace. Cale stared at the display. "How many?" The tactical officer couldn't answer. The number kept increasing. 10,000. 20,000. 40,000. Then the system stopped counting. The architect fleet slowed. For the first time, their formation broke. Mercer watched silently. The Dominion commander finally understood. The 300 ships humanity had sent into battle were never supposed to defeat the Dominion. The Shadow Armada wasn't even humanity's final force. It was only the force humanity had been willing to reveal. But then something strange happened. The architect flagship didn't retreat. Instead, it transmitted a message directly to Earth. The message contained only 6 words. "We remember what you buried." Mercer's smile disappeared. Every human officer turned toward him. "What does that mean?" Mercer looked at the ancient symbol appearing on the screen. His voice dropped to a whisper. "It means they know about the last weapon." Outside Earth, something beneath the moon began opening. And whatever was inside had been sleeping for 10,000 years. The moon began to split. Not crack. Not explode. Open. Across Earth's surface, billions watched as enormous sections of lunar rock moved apart, revealing a structure buried beneath the surface. The Dominion fleet fell silent. Even the architects stopped advancing. Cale stared at the impossible sight. "What is that?" Mercer didn't answer. He was staring at something nobody on the bridge had seen before. A massive black ring was rising from beneath the moon. Ancient. Enormous. Covered in symbols older than human civilization. The architect fleet suddenly changed formation. For the first time, their ships appeared afraid. Cale noticed it. "They recognize it." Mercer nodded. "They built it." Cale turned sharply. "What?" Mercer finally revealed the truth. 10,000 years ago, the architects had visited Earth. Humanity was young then. Primitive. Powerless. The architects had considered Earth useless. But they discovered something beneath the moon. Something even they couldn't control. So they buried it. Then they erased every record of its existence. Humanity eventually found the ruins. And instead of destroying them, human scientists spent generations studying them. They learned one terrifying fact. The object wasn't a weapon. It was a gateway. A gateway capable of opening a passage to any location in the galaxy. Mercer looked at the tactical display. The architects have spent 10,000 years making sure nobody could use it. Kale whispered, and now you're going to. Mercer nodded. Exactly. The gateway activated. A beam of white energy shot from the moon into deep space. The stars seemed to bend. The architect fleet immediately attacked. Thousands of weapons fired toward the moon. Human warships intercepted them. The Shadow Armada formed a defensive wall around Earth. The Dominion fleet joined them. For the first time, Kale gave an order without questioning Mercer. All Dominion ships, protect the moon. The battle became chaos. Human carriers launched fighters. Dominion battleships unleashed massive plasma batteries. Architect ships tore through the combined fleet. But the gateway continued charging. Then Mercer's officers noticed something terrifying. The gateway wasn't opening toward another world. It was opening behind the architect fleet. A second portal appeared. Then a third. Then hundreds. Kale stared at the tactical screen. What is humanity doing? Mercer answered. Closing the trap. The portals connected the entire battlefield. Every architect ship suddenly found itself surrounded by gateways. The human fleet had spent decades mapping the enemy's movements. Now they could attack from anywhere. The architects attempted to escape. Every route led back into the battlefield. Their own technology had become their prison. Then the largest architect vessel began changing shape. Its hull opened. Something enormous emerged. Not a ship. Not a machine. A living structure stretching across space. The architect flagship transmitted one final message. You should never have awakened the first gate. Mercer looked at the enormous entity. Then he gave the order. Open it completely. The moon's gateway reached maximum power. And somewhere beyond reality. Something answered. For the first time in 10,000 years, the first gate opened completely. Space around the moon bent inward. Stars stretched into thin white lines. The earth trembled beneath its oceans. And then, something looked back. Every human sensor on Earth went dark. Every Dominion scanner failed. Even the architects stopped firing. A shape appeared inside the gateway. It was too large to understand. Kale stared at the screen. That's not a ship. Mercer shook his head. No. The shape moved closer. It had no visible engines, no weapons, no conventional hull. It looked like an entire piece of another universe had been pulled through the gateway. The architect fleet began retreating. Their formation collapsed into panic. Kale couldn't believe what he was seeing. They're afraid. Mercer watched the architects flee. They should be. Then the thing inside the gateway spoke. Not through radio. Not through sound. Its voice appeared directly inside the minds of every living being connected to the battlefield. Who awakened the gate? Millions heard the same question. Mercer stepped toward the command window. I did. Silence. Then the entity responded. Humanity. The word sounded less like a name and more like a judgment. The architects suddenly attacked the gateway. Every surviving vessel fired simultaneously. They weren't trying to destroy Earth. They were trying to destroy the entity before it crossed completely into their universe. The combined human Dominion fleet opened fire on the architects. The battle became absolute chaos. Human carriers launched their final fighters. Dominion dreadnoughts sacrificed themselves to protect the gateway. The Shadow Armada advanced through burning debris. But the architects still had one advantage. Their central vessel began charging a weapon unlike anything humanity had seen. Mercer's tactical officer went pale. Sir. What? That weapon isn't targeting the fleet. Mercer looked at the display. The targeting system was locked onto Earth. How long? 2 minutes. Mercer didn't hesitate. Evacuate the remaining civilian zones. Sir, there isn't enough time. Mercer looked at Earth. For a moment, he said nothing. Then he opened every communication channel. His voice reached every human ship. Today, they came to Earth believing humanity had nothing left. He looked at the approaching weapon. They were wrong. Behind the human fleet, thousands of damaged ships moved forward. They were barely operational. Their crews were exhausted. Their armor was destroyed. But they formed one final wall around Earth. Mercer continued. We don't need to survive. The officers looked at him. We only need to make sure they don't. The architect weapon reached maximum charge. The entire galaxy seemed to hold its breath. Then the entity inside the first gate moved. A single wave passed through space. Every architect weapon shut down. Their engines died. Their ships froze. And the entity spoke again. The architects were never your creators. Mercer stared at the gateway. The entity continued. They were your jailers. Then the gateway opened even wider. Beyond it was not another world. It was an endless armada of ancient ships. Millions of them. And everyone was turning toward the architects. Mercer whispered. Now they know what humanity has been preparing for. The final battle had not begun. It had just become a war between two ancient civilizations, and humanity was standing in the middle. For 10 seconds, nobody moved. Millions of ancient ships floated beyond the first gate. Their hulls were enormous, silent, and covered in technology older than human civilization itself. The architects had stopped firing. For the first time, they were the ones surrounded. Kale stared at the impossible fleet. How many ships? His tactical officer looked at the screen. The number kept changing. Millions. Kale slowly turned toward Mercer. You knew this was here? Mercer shook his head. No. That answer frightened Kale more than anything else. Humanity hadn't created the ancient Armada. It had simply discovered it. The architects had spent 10,000 years hiding the truth. They hadn't conquered humanity because humans were weak. They had feared what humanity might eventually become. The entity inside the gate spoke again. The jailers have returned. The ancient fleet moved. Millions of ships accelerated simultaneously. The architects launched everything they had left. Space became a storm of light. Humanity and the Dominion remained between the two ancient forces. Mercer realized they couldn't simply watch. Open every communication channel. His officers obeyed. Mercer's voice reached both fleets. We have spent our entire history fighting because someone taught us to fear each other. Human and Dominion commanders listened. The architects survived by keeping civilizations divided. Mercer looked at Earth. Today, we end that. The human fleet moved forward. The Dominion followed. Together, they attacked. The architects were overwhelmed. Their ships vanished one after another as the ancient Armada closed around them. But the architect flagship refused to surrender. Its commander appeared on every screen. You think this is victory? Mercer stared at him. The alien smiled. We were only the first jailers. Behind the architect fleet, another dimensional fracture opened. Something even larger appeared. Kale's face went pale. There is another fleet. Mercer looked at the new portal. For one terrifying moment, nobody spoke. Then the ancient entity moved toward it. The two enormous forces collided. The resulting energy wave spread across the galaxy. Every surviving ship was thrown backward. Then, silence. The portals closed. The architect fleet disappeared. The ancient Armada vanished with them. Humanity survived. Barely. Earth's cities were damaged. Thousands of ships were gone. Millions of lives had been lost. But the war was over. Years later, the galaxy would remember the day humanity revealed its hidden Armada. Not because humans had possessed the largest fleet. Not because they had the strongest weapons. But because humanity had done something the ancient empires had never understood. It had chosen cooperation over domination. The Dominion became humanity's closest ally. Former enemies rebuilt destroyed worlds together. And the secret Armada remained hidden beyond the stars. Not as a threat. As a guardian. One final message from the ancient entity remained in Earth's archives. You were never the weakest species. You were the species that learned to survive. And whenever the galaxy looked toward Earth afterward, it remembered the lesson. Humanity didn't reveal its true strength when it wanted to conquer. It revealed it when everyone else had decided humanity was too weak to matter. That was the mistake. And somewhere beyond the edge of known space, a human ship quietly entered the darkness. Its engines ignited. Its mission was simple. Find the next enemy before it found Earth.